Oh, hi. I know, Holly. I know I'm late. All right. Uh, it's just.
Yo,
Oh shit! It's big bad Jason Arntz. What's up, bro?
I don't know about that. What are you doing?
What the hell? Hold on. Fucking worked late, and then I came home. Tried to feed the dogs, but they get excited because I
Right.
just got home, so they don't want to eat because I just got home. They were all excited, and then I'm like, well, fuck you guys. If you don't want to eat, I gotta fucking do a show with Jason Arntz.
Yeah, they can wait. Fuck
Yeah.
them.
So I just texted my wife. I'm like, you gotta feed these motherfuckers. Uh
Yeah. So you happy
Hi,
about that?
Xavier.
Hello
What's up,
there.
dude? How's everything going, man?
It's going, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going.
How's I Prevail Subs, which this show is brought to you by I Prevail Subs.
The leader in sports supplements, leader of the industry. We're setting precedent and developing product that nobody's ever had before, nobody's ever seen before. Get the fiber, dude. I'll have it shipped out today, so I should have about
Really?
middle of the week. Yeah.
Definitely gonna use that.
Yeah. Good product.
It's the leader of putting me to sleep, that's for sure, because I love that sleep product. It helps tremendously.
Yeah, I got two new flavors I just approved. I'm waiting to put them into production too.
Oh, very cool. So the link is in the description. It's www.i-prevailsups.com. The discount code is S&S10, also in the description. And go get your stuff because this show is sponsored by
Yes,
I
sir.
Prevail Subs. All right.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about trenbolone is like probably the most popular fucking steroid. Everybody wants to jump on tren. It's like the go-to steroid. But to me, the ends don't justify the means with tren. If so, what I'm trying to say is like the inconvenient side effects that tren gives you to me is not worth the progress. So you could use other stuff like the lack of sleep, the pools of sweat you wake up in the middle of the night from the tren cough, which is pressure, the high blood pressure, and to me, unless you're competing and you really need to, you could probably get the same effect from Test and Deca and not have to worry about all those fucking side effects. But since everybody seems to like it and want to jump on it, I wanted to discuss trenbolone, what it is. There's 3 different types, the pros, the cons, and so on and so forth. So, of course, I have the master, the brainiac with me, Mr. Jason Arntz.
Yeah. So
Let's start off with what exactly it is.
trenbolone is a highly anabolic, highly androgenic compound. It bonds to your 19-testosterone receptor site. And the purpose of this is because of its high anabolism. It promotes muscle recovery, muscle growth, muscle stimuli, at an accelerated rate. So you have 3 different forms. You have the enanthate, acetate, and the hex, which is like from the original compound, parabolane.
Okay.
So hexabolane, they called it.
I just call it hex, tren hex, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's a longer acting ester. It'll last, I believe, 7 to 9 days, where the enanthate is, probably 10 to up to 14 days, and the acetate is a quicker half-life. So it's in and out of you within a few days.
Yeah.
I always like the longer acting ones. I don't think you need to be injecting that stuff, through the week. It does have a higher toxicity level. It does raise your blood pressure. It kicks in really quick. If you use it properly, you could minimize these side effects. But we hear it online. These guys bragging about how they do 7 cc's of tren a week, and at that point, like, you're only asking for trouble.
Right.
If you can get away with doing a cc to 2 cc's a week, and you stretch that for 6 to 8 weeks and get off it, you could reap the benefits of it. But
Right.
I mean, it's like anything else. Anabolic steroid use is not going to cause long-term damage, right? But when they say that, people have to remember that anabolic steroids, with their intended purpose, the intended milligram dosage per pound of body weight. Now, athletes, unfortunately, don't do that. So you're at risk of obtaining these side effects much easier. And a lot of them can have long-term cardiac issues. All of these anabolics they're usually methylated cholesterol molecules. So you have that cholesterol running in and out of your system nonstop, and with the accelerated heart rate, you could get and the accelerated blood pressure, you could get thickening of the arteries. You could get, you could start to develop plaque and hardening of the arteries. And you won't notice it right away, but this is stuff that accrues, after 4 or 5 years of doing this type of stuff, at an abusive rate. And you got to remember, anything over recommended dosage is an abusive rate. So you have to take that into consideration if you are planning to use this substance.
Right. Why do people that this is the one compound that people absolutely always prefer the fast acting? They always want the acetate. Is that just like because that's what they think is better, or is there an actual benefit from using an acetate versus the enanthate?
Well, so guys would use acetate, closer to a show because it's in and out of you quicker. So you wouldn't get any type of water retention issues, or you can get off it, 7 to 10 days before the show, and you're going to flush out any subcutaneous water you might be holding from those hormones, from that anabolic substance. Where, to be honest, you could take the longer acting ones and just get off it 2 weeks earlier, 2-3 weeks earlier. You'll be fine. You're not going to lose your gains, in 2 to 3 weeks. To be honest, I never liked the acetate. I'm not sure why people prefer that. Maybe they like injecting more often. I don't know. Maybe they like that quick, sudden onset, which it does hit you, dude. It hits you hard. It's a strong, powerful compound. Keeps you aggressive, raises your sex drive. So I'm sure there's that overwhelming feeling that some people like. So they'll do the acetate more often. You could still do an enanthate or straight parabolin and do it, twice a week and still reap, really good rewards without overkilling yourself with the acetate and having to do a shot every day. That's a little too much.
Yeah, the only time I ever used acetate was when I was competing. If I ever wanted to use it other than that, it was always the enanthate, because to me, just pinning yourself every other day was just, to me, it wasn't worth it.
Well, dude, before they came out with these options, there was only parabolin.
Right.
Before they banned it and people started making the trenbolone and enanthate and trenbolone acetate. So parabolin is the longer acting one. So you don't really need the acetate, to get those pre-contest benefits.
What happened to parabolin? Why was it discontinued?
It was a European drug. I don't think it was ever legal or available here in the States, even with a prescription. But they deemed that the side effects kind of outweighed the rewards, and they just put people onto straight DHTs more or less overseas. They prescribe more DHTs overseas, like your Masterones, Provirons, because that stuff is just a straight DHT. Testosterone has to convert to a DHT. So you lose a little bit during that conversion process, where if you take a straight DHT, you're better off.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay. So let's talk about the side effects. So the blood pressure, cholesterol, we kind of know what that's about.
Acne, gyno,
that's all. Yeah, that's all the basics. That's all that everybody can get from any kind of drug. But the two that I'm almost concerned about is when I used to use Tren, and mostly with acetate, but also with enanthate, I used to wake up in a pool of sweat. Yeah. it was just unbearable to the point where I would get up in the middle of the night, and if I didn't change my sheets, I would literally just put towels down and go back to sleep. It would be unbearable. What leads to the tremendous sweating from trenbolone?
I think it's just the accelerated heart rate and the fact that it's such a powerful compound that it gets your system to react right away.
Okay, all right.
And anything that increases metabolism or anabolic function at that high rate is going to heat you up.
Okay.
It has those thermogenic properties to it where, anabolism, your body is utilizing and you're simulating protein and carbohydrates and fats more efficiently and effectively and get your metabolism going. And anything that does that puts your system in overdrive. So you're going to, your engine's going to go.
Is that the same reason why you have trouble sleeping on trenbolone?
Yeah. I mean, also, because of that, if your blood pressure's up, if your heart rate is up, you're going to have a difficult time going to sleep. But most people, when they're on anabolics also, if they're used to sleeping 8 hours, without anabolics, and now your body's recovering, 6 or 7 isn't that bad because you're recovering faster. You don't really require the same amount of rest that you do when you're off.
Well, to me, it was always having trouble falling to sleep when I was on it. Right.
Yeah.
For some reason, I always had trouble falling to sleep, and I would wake up in pools of sweat. And it would also make me irritable. Not the worst, but irritable enough. The worst that made me irritable was halotestin.
Yeah, those are 2 heavy androgenic compounds. Yeah, that'll do that to you.
So it was to the point where it was like I thought I was fine. You would think you're fine, and then something that normally would run, would kind of brush off your shoulder. You kind of you snap, right? The other one is obviously the tren cough. And what was funny with the tren cough is that only really happened to me with tren acetate. Tren acetate, I didn't get really the tren cough too much. I would feel like I was going to cough. It was like a lighter version, but the acetate would make me go into coughing fits for a couple of minutes after I injected. But then it would go away. Like after I injected a couple of times, like a couple of weeks later, it wouldn't happen again. But especially the first 1 or 2 or 3 times of injecting acetate, trenbolone acetate, the coughing fits were insane.
Yeah.
Does anybody know what causes that?
So the original Powerballing, to my knowledge, and I've used real Powerballing, I never had a coughing fit or a coughing attack.
Right.
Excuse me, when I took Powerballing. Tren people had to make from those pellets, So with that, there's a different process in manufacturing into an injectable form.
Mm-hmm.
And because of people getting the substance in a pellet form, it requires more benzyl alcohol. It requires more substance to get it more pure and to keep it clean. And anything that has a higher BA level, benzyl alcohol level, it constricts your lungs.
Okay.
And because tren is such a potent drug, it has that effect. So it stimulates, your lungs contract, constrict, your body coughs. I knew people that would say, and I never heard of this clinically to be true, but if you took a, like an allergy pill, like a Benadryl or something along those lines, it would help suppress the cough before your injection.
Okay. I didn't know that. So Small says back in the day, original compound was Phenoplex.
Yeah, Phenoplex, that was another version of it, but it's the same drug.
Now, Smalls, you wouldn't happen to be Fred Smalls. I doubt it, but just asking.
Oh, shit.
What?
Oh, shit, is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I've actually gotten tren cough from that. Really? Oh, that's strange. I didn't know that. So when I was competing, if I had to use compounds that I didn't like or made me feel irritable or whatever, I would deal with it. Oh, it's not. It's just another guy named Small. I would deal with it. Okay. The halotestin, the 3 I hated the most were tren, halotestin, and what's the fat burner? Clenbuterol. Those are the three I hated the most because I didn't like feeling uncomfortable, and those three would make me feel uncomfortable. I would heart rate, irritable, so on and so forth. I wouldn't feel good, and it would trend. Of course, the night sweats and the blood pressure. So, to me, unless it's absolutely necessary, like if you're competing, to me, it wasn't. It was just not necessary. Right. And I see a lot of the young guys, they immediately want to jump on trend.
Because that's all they hear about. That's like the trendy drug. That people more commonly, or maybe they just more commonly have access to it. I'm not sure the real reason. The original Parabol, and I could see anybody making an argument for wanting to use that properly dosed.
Right.
Trend, everybody's jumping to that, dude. They think it's gonna give them constant erections. They're gonna gain 30 pounds of muscle in a couple of weeks, and and whatnot. And that's the
because maybe it's my age, but when I use a compound, I want to feel good. I want to go to the gym. I want to feel strong. I want to feel healthy. I want to feel happy. Right. So if I'm using something and it makes me just irritable and uncomfortable, and I don't want to be there, and I'm not friendly, and I'm waking up sweaty and I'm coughing, to me, the ends don't justify the means. Especially now that we're older, the blood pressure, the cholesterol, I don't need that shit. So honestly, if I use Test and Deca or even Test and GH, I don't get any of that, and I seem to have the same results in the long run. To be honest with you, what's your philosophy on that?
On what part?
Well, the part of like if it's not necessary to use trend, don't.
Well, it depends what the end goal is. If it's somebody who's not looking to compete, you're not doing a show, you're not pushing this to a higher level, there's really no reason to do a lot of things except for maybe some basics if you're looking to just put on a little bit of muscle.
Right.
So that's really, subjective. There's guys that are competing on a local and regional level that I don't feel the need they should be on growth hormone, or they should be doing insulin.
Right.
Or to be doing GLP medications to lose weight. You could go down the list. There's a ton of stuff, that people should or shouldn't be doing. It's not going to stop them from doing it,
Well, that's Smalls made a remark before. I didn't put it up, but he said, well, why do anything? Basically, why do anything if you're not competing? Well, yeah, but people are still going to. So
yeah, and look, people, they want to take stuff. They want quick results. I get it. You're not going to, there's people like, hey, I know I'm never going to win the 100-yard dash, but I want to run pretty quick. So, I'll do this and this so I run faster, even though I'm going nowhere with it. Some guys, hey, I just want to look good. I want to get in shape, and, they're young enough. They're healthy enough. Is it going to take years off their life? No. Are they going to be unhealthy during the process? If they eat right and train accordingly and don't really do things in a overly aggressive fashion, they could be relatively healthy before, during, and after. It's when you really start to abuse things and stay on for prolonged periods of time, when it's not really necessary, that's when you have to start balancing out, what are the long-term goals here? And is it worth it for me to put myself through this to obtain that?
Yeah. So young guy comes to you, maybe he's 28, 25, 30, or younger guy. And he says he wants you, from the gym or wherever, and he wants your 2 cents. And he says, I've been thinking about doing something. I've never done anything. Everybody tells me about trend. What do you think? What do you tell that person? Because personally, I tell that person there's no reason to use trend unless you're competing. But what do you tell that person?
Well, if they're telling me they're on trend, okay, good for you. Yeah.
No, they're asking you, what do you think?
No, I know. I was getting there.
Oh, okay.
If at 28 years old, if they ask me I think they should be on trend, no, dude, there's no.
Right. Yeah.
For what? For what? You're at 28, you should be thinking of your future and thinking of possibly settling down and wanting a family. And, if you're not a hardcore pro athlete seeking something, no, not not a great idea to get on trend.
No, definitely not. And I think, how can I say this? I've noticed that. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just this generation. Maybe it's cultural. I have no idea. But when we were younger, do you remember we used to pass around that book? There was like an underground book. I think it was I forgot the name of it. Who wrote it? Bill Phillips?
Or
Was
Dan
it?
Duchesne.
One of them. Yeah, there was like these underground books, and they were difficult to get, and you would get it, and you would read it, and you would give it to you. Then you would pass it off to your friend in the gym, and he would pass it off, and so on and so forth. And you would do a bunch of research before anything really happens. And now you have so much research at your fingertips. It's right there on your phone. And I've noticed that the younger generation still doesn't do their research, and they kind of want you to take them by the hand. Where when we were younger, we really tried to. Oh, that's right. You're right, Holly. I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, Bill Llewellyn. We really tried to find out everything. I mean, we were going to do it anyway, but I remember reading that book cover to cover and then handing it off to a friend of mine.
Right.
Do you find the same thing? Do you find that people are just, I've heard to use Tren. I've heard to use Anavar. I've heard to use Psalms. I've heard to use peptides, and they just have no they do no research. They just want to be told what to do and taken by the hand, and here you go.
Yeah, and that's the problem is people's research is listening to TikTok and Instagram and podcasts. And dude, even with what I'm telling people, don't listen to me. I mean, I could give you as much knowledge that I have, but you should always double check it. You know, people think that, they heard it online and it must be true. Like 85% of the stuff you hear on TikTok and Instagram is bullshit, dude. This is all entertainment.
Right.
All of this is entertainment. This isn't knowledge, but people mistake that because the reality is nobody wants to read.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to read, the pathology report of some of these substances or the side effects or the clinical studies of how they're done. And to be honest, I'd say 99% of people can't read a clinical study. It's very difficult to read.
Right.
And you have to know what to look for and what certain things. And I like those things. And sometimes I have a hard time understanding them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm into this, people who think, I heard this clinical study. Yeah, you heard it, but it doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't even mean it's a peer-reviewed clinical study. People mistake information, for education,
good. That's actually very good.
And because they heard it, it's godsend.
Right,
they take it and okay, I heard this, I'm going to go with this, and you can't take the lazy approach about it.
That's actually a great quote. I'm going to use that. People would mistake information for education. That's actually really good. Yeah, it was one of the guys at work that was picking my brain, and I say it all the time. And I go, you have to. First of all, you got to figure out who you're talking to. Are you talking to a bozo at the gym that doesn't know what he's talking about, or are you getting it from a good source? And I said, do your own research. But this was a very young guy. But getting back
here's the problem. And nowadays, because of all the shit we see with government, that a lot of these top scientists and a lot of these top doctors have really gotten a bad rap. And that's why I think people are so quick just to listen to somebody on social media, because there's so many people arguing about the one or two times this board certified doctor was wrong. Dude, do these doctors make mistakes? Of course.
right.
They make them all the time.
Mhm.
Like science is constantly evolving, but they're also right 99% of the time.
Right. Yeah.
And people think because they were wrong once here that everything they said is bullshit and you can't get good information. Dude, let me tell you, when you're in a situation, okay, and you're faced with having to make a health-based decision, all the shit you hear on Instagram and TikTok, it's going to go out the fucking window. All you want to hear from are the people in the know and the top scientists and board certified doctors. That's who you want to listen. And even then, they could be wrong.
Right.
But those are the people you want to talk to.
Yeah, agreed. 100% agreed. Did you, when you use Parabolin or Tren, did you notice a huge increase in strength as well?
So, we didn't take stuff when I was coming up the way it's used now. It was much smaller amounts, and you started off with one compound. It wasn't like these heavy cycles and doing 3 or 4 different things at once. It's like, I remember for one show, the only drug I did was Powerball, and it was 1 shot a week. But that's all I did. So to get the kind of results that you hear people getting off of, by doing 1 cc a week, I always felt like my progress was slow and steady through my whole amateur career and through my pro career. I never gained 20 pounds of muscle in a year. I just wasn't my body type. But I did hear of people doing that. And maybe it's because, they were clean at the time, and then they just introduced a few compounds and they put that weight on. Mine was little by little. So did I like Powerballing? Yeah, I thought it was a good drug, and it was definitely, a drug of choice pre-competition. And there was drugs I would only use for competitions and drugs I used in the off season. But I could never really say that, I took this and it blew me up, because all of my I used this for this amount of time, and I was able to put on 3 or 4 pounds of muscle that year. This time I used this and this, and I was able to put another 4 or 5 pounds of muscle on that year. So it was more progressive like that.
What about your strength, though? Your actual physical strength in the gym?
I mean, it would, I would get stronger as my weight went up, and I was always basically a strong guy.
Right. Yeah.
I was an athlete, so I was pushing good weight, like even in high school, playing football and wrestling, like, we worked out, we moved good weight. I was one of the stronger kids always.
Yeah.
And that of course always, evolved with my progression too.
Okay, because I do remember using Tren and noticing a tremendous strength gain. Not a tremendous strength gain, but what seems like a tremendous strength gain. When you add 20 pounds to your bench, you're like, wow, right? That's impressive. I've known that. I've noticed that with Tren. I've noticed that with halotestin. And what would be odd is when I would use these pre-contest drugs, I was always stronger, which was strange. I was always stronger, a month before a show when I was using these pre-contest drugs. I'd be leaner, I'd be, very low body fat, lighter weight, but and the only thing that I can contribute to was the drugs, because what else could possibly, make me that strong? And I remember the Tren, and I remember the halotestin. It was Tren, halotestin, and Mastron that I was using, and testosterone by last contest. And I remember that the strength increases were amazing. And to me, that could be addicting. And I think that could be another problem with taking these harder drugs like Tren and halotestin, is the fact that, think about the high you get when you make a new PR. It's very difficult, and then you have to mentally be able to come off that and know that you're going to, your strength is going to go down. You might lose a little bit of muscle, and so on and so forth. And I think it's very addicting. And I think a lot of people, can't wait to jump back on or not come off at all. What do you think?
You could make that argument, for anything. Of course, you're on these substances and you're going to feel better. You're going to look better. You're going to be stronger. Your pumps are going to be better. But you have to realize that enjoy it while it lasts, because there's going to be a downtime.
Right.
But you have to take that downtime. It's like, hey, I have a couple drinks every night. I feel great, but you realize, hey, you keep doing this, dude, you're going to be an alcoholic, so
yeah.
You could drink every night and deal with that, or you could drink periodically and not kill yourself. And, so you have to realize why you're doing it. And you always have to realize that there are health consequences that you have to keep into consideration.
Right.
So if you think you're going to feel good 365 days out of the year and have those pumps and be lean and be aggressive, you're not going to sustain. It's not going to last. Something's going to
happen. Yeah.
Something's going to break, and you have to be willing mentally. And that's what it all boils down to, is mentally. You have to be willing to have that downtime. Now, I know people that when they were off, they wouldn't train at all. They couldn't take looking at themselves. They don't want to go to the gym and see their strength diminish. They don't want to see their pumps diminish. They don't want to see themselves lose 15, 20 pounds. So they wouldn't even train. They would just take that time off, clean out, go do something completely different. Then when they're ready, they couldn't train without it. You know?
Really?
Yeah, there was a lot of people like that. I was
That's
the opposite, where I kept training hard. You know,
yeah.
I would alter my training a little bit, and I would try to maintain as much as possible. You know,
Right.
so that was my approach.
All right. Well, all in all, what we're trying to say to people out there that are interested, do your research. There's plenty of podcasts. There's plenty of information online. It's at your fingertips. We all know that you're going to do these things if you really want to. So there's no sense in saying, yeah, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Don't do it. But if you're gonna do it smart. And with Tren, my opinion is if you're gonna do Tren, 6 to 8 weeks tops. But I would really avoid it if necessary, if possible. There's, to me, things like Tren, it's just the ends they don't justify the means. It made me very uncomfortable, and I think it makes a lot of people very uncomfortable. You know, they call it the relationship killer, right? Because you would always fight with your girlfriend or your wife or something like that. And to me, it was just not. It's not necessary. If you're competing, especially if you're competing at a higher level and you have to deal with it, that's one thing. But if you just want a guy that just wants to be in shape, or a girl that just wants to be in shape, there's other compounds they could use that, in my opinion, will at least give you good progress and you don't feel like crap. Because Tren used to make me feel like crap. Tren, Halotestin, Clen, and IGF-1 used to make me feel like shit. And so it was just, to me, and once I finished competing, I was like, I'm never using those compounds again. That was it. And I would just stick to the basics. I was to test, DECA, GH. That was really it, man. You know, now it's and as I'm getting older, it's getting smaller and smaller. Like I literally use, right now, I'm using 200 milligrams of test and growth, and that's it. You know, there's no reason to. Mr. Arntz, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
I have a Christmas gift for you.
But, you should.
Well, I got it for everybody that's on the show. So I ordered it this weekend. So it's the bitch of it is going to be getting it to Lee Priest in Australia. I'm going to have to spend a fortune shipping it over there, but I'll do it. So I'm just waiting for them to come in. They're actually pretty cool.
Okay, thank you.
And you got it, man. All right, Mr. Arntz, thank you. And remember, I Prevail Sups. Link in the description.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Later, people.
All right, brother. Be safe.